Anant, whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir. I think I'll start now. Welcome to the CII Maharashtra session on women in the startup world, breaking barriers, shaping the future. Uh, Today we have a very interesting lineup of speakers. So, firstly, we have our co-convener, Mr. Ravikant Sabnavis, who is the co-convener for CII Maharashtra panel on startup ecosystem and the CEO of Arha Media and Broadcasting Private Limited. Thank you for joining in, and over to you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Harsh. A warm welcome to you all. We are doing this under the aegis of the Maharashtra State Council of the CII Western region. This year, we are really committed to creating a platform for women founders and entrepreneurs. Over the last 3-4 months, this is actually the second initiative we've put together. And interestingly, this time we are partnering with the IWN, which Tanuja, who's also here, chairs. So this is a true collaboration indeed to get everybody together. And I'm really delighted to, introduce a panel of women entrepreneurs this afternoon who are truly breaking barriers and, if I may say, gender stereotypes as well. I'm going to quickly introduce the participants in no particular order. Paula McLean is co-founder and CEO of Gulbadan Talkies, which runs a YouTube platform called Bhadipa. We have Rutuja Udyavar, who's the founder of Optimum Data Analytics. We also have Karishma Bhalla, who's founder of Taramis Labs. And we have Anita Divakar, who is the CEO of the VJTI Technology Business Incubator. And anchoring this session today is Geetika Kambli, who is a partner with Future Factory. So without further ado, I'm going to, hand this over to Geetika, for a more detailed introduction to herself and start the session. Over to you, Geetika.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Just a quick sound check to make sure I'm audible. That's one of the things that came out of the pandemic and still there, unfortunately. But hi, everyone. I'm very happy to have you guys over. This is a fabulous event. I think Ravi and Tanuja have done a great job by collaborating across two key initiatives for us, and very excited to talk today about diversity in startup incubators and accelerators. I'm going to broaden the topic a bit, and I think it'll be wonderful for us to kind of share our personal experiences on this and our perspectives as we go ahead. So quick heads up, I'm Geetika. I am partner at a design tech firm called Future Factory, and recently a startup, and probably the oldest startup in this room right now. We set up a company called Humanify a year ago, and we're using techs like AI, etc., to kind of make sense out of unstructured data so client teams can take decisions on the fly. So that's why I'm here on the panel. That's my claim to fame on why I've been sitting here. But in the past, I'm also past chair at Maharashtra as IWN, and work very closely with Tanuja and Harsh on some of the initiatives we had here. So after this, I think Harsh is going to make sure that everyone's a member of IWN. Harsh, that's something you've got to make sure outside of this, right?
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Good show. Okay, let's just jump right into it. I think it'd be great if, when we pose questions to each other, if you could take a minute, introduce yourself, and then answer the question. I think a better way to run. Okay, so first the bad news. Yeah, we have really poor representation. I mean, there was a report I'm reading from here by Women in Tech 5 years ago that stated it'll be 100 years before we close the economic gap, right? So it is quite distraught. But if you look closer to home, in 2023, NASSCOM released a report that said 80% of the funding that went out in that quarter of 2023 was actually went to women founders. At least one or two of the founders were women. And I think that's a great sign. There's suddenly a lot of interest in what women can do and how they can bring that diversity can bring a certain color and a certain nuance to the way that we make decisions in society. So let's get to it right away. Karishma, asking you first. Can you tell us just in one sentence what you do, and then how do you feel about this?
So I used to be a partner at the Boston Consulting Group, and now I'm a founder of a food and beverage company called Taramis Labs. We make healthy food and gourmet beverages. Right? That's a quick introduction to what we do. Actually, I feel awful about it, right? And I feel awful because despite the fact that people have been working, and I know that I have been in the corporate world for about 2 decades now, and I know that people have been working seamlessly at plugging these gaps. Back at BCG, we used to do a bunch of initiatives. We have been, many forums have been talking about this. But I think the economic gap between men and women has not even come close to being bridged. I actually feel some of it has gone away as India has gone. Data says that the economic gap between, the gender gap has actually gone up as India has become more prosperous because less women are now coming into the workforce. So this is the only metric on which, as the economy has progressed, we have deteriorated, right? And I think this gap is even more prevalent in the startup ecosystem. And there are many reasons for it, but I think if I were to take a step back and go to at least my assessment of the core of the issue, it is the fact that it just has always been a boys' club. The investor ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, the hustle that you require. A lot of these people have been men, and obviously when you're in a startup, the relationships are not formal. There is no formal mandate to do something. There is a lot of hustle and a lot of self-motivation and initiative that you need to take at every stage. And I think because we haven't been able to clear up the way the investing ecosystem works, and because we haven't been able to create enough diversity, at the stakeholder level, women are just not feeling confident enough that they can take the risk. Right?
Okay,
it's a sad reality.
Hold that thought. I think we've got so many things coming out of here. You've talked about confidence, you've talked about mentorship, you've talked about, it being a boys' club. So we'll pick up all of those points. But just coming back to your first point on it being a boys' club and, how women have been left out of it historically, and that essentially is a disadvantage to begin with. I'm going to move to Paula and, the arts and something that's extremely different from what we normally associate tech and startups with, right? Do you see the same? And also, if you can tell us what's keeping it to a boys' club? Why is it still a boys' club, right? But a line about yourself before you start.
Hi, Geetika, and everybody. My name's Paula, and I am a co-founder and director of Bharatiya Digital Party, which is a Marathi entertainment brand. We were the first Marathi YouTube channel back in 2016, and now we have branched out. We do premium web series, we do live events, and overall sort of changing the pop culture space in Marathi is our goal. And in terms of the boys' club thing, I definitely feel that it is still a boys' club. It's not so much on the corporate side as much in the entertainment business. You can take a look at some OTT platforms and you can see a lot of the top management are women, though not necessarily the stakeholders. So that's a lot of these are very old companies with a lot of heritage, which have been around for decades. So those family-owned businesses and all that's not going to change anytime soon. But definitely, programming and in the content side, there are more women actively playing in that decisive role. That being said, if you can take a look at all of the directors and producers in the film industry, usually you can pick out a language and maybe name 3 very successful women out of a sea of men. And those women typically have sacrificed an awful lot in their lives to reach that space. And then, of course, there's all of the stereotypes that go with a woman who's reached that level being a certain way, having to be, maybe harder, more nasty to sort of survive in that male-dominated world. And it's not without cause, that we sort of get molded into this shape that we don't start out wanting to be these kind of like savvy, nasty businesswomen. But, there are situations where you feel that this is the only way to move forward and to get ahead and to get a deal done. And you definitely feel that pressure to behave in a certain way. And I don't know if there's not a wrong way or a right way to deal with it. And I think that there is no perfect solution right now. But definitely the representation has been changing and improving, at least because of social pressure. There is social pressure to have more representation. Reports coming out about, women's representation does, put a spotlight on a lot of these things. But there's a long, long, long road to go, for sure.
Okay, yeah, very exciting when you're talking about how there's a lot of social pressure that's coming in to change the status quo, but there's also a lot of social pressure that actually paints successful women in a certain way that makes it harder for others to join the really dwindling, the really tiny club in the first place. And, a lot of history that's gone into that from what Karishma is saying and what you're saying as well. Just going to divert this to Anita. And, for starting it from scratch out of college, looking at incubators and accelerators, and operating in this social environment with these stereotypes and these challenges, already facing, potential women entrepreneurs when they know that this is what they're in for and this is how they're going to be perceived. What are we doing there to change that for the future?
Yeah, so am I audible? Yeah. So very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, CII and Harsh and Anand for making me a part of this program. Yes, so I'm taking care of this incubation center, which is hosted at VJTI. So VJTI, a very old, one of the oldest institutes, technological institutes in the country. And we have around 49 startups with us. And yes, definitely, I would say that, I'm very positive as far as this particular, aspect is considered, like the representation of women in the entrepreneur space. There are almost 17 different schemes that you will see at the Startup India portal, which are aligned to the inclusivity of women in as entrepreneurs. And even when, so we have 49, out of which obviously the representation of women is less. We have 10 startups out of 49 which have women co-founders. And obviously there are a few who have, regular employees who are women. So there is an increase year by year. So this is my 3rd year. And each year the number of women who are entering this space is increasing. So that's a positive thing that I would like to say.
Anita, if you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the incubation center to kind of shape some of these social perspectives towards women who are actually getting up there. Because I'm sure there's a lot of money coming in, a lot of support coming in. We can see, post-pandemic, some of that having changed for whatever reason. But I think from a social point of view, how are we encouraging the minority gender to have a voice, or how are we shaping some of that identity?
Right. So we have, regularly we have these entrepreneurship awareness sessions. Every week we have these, and we encourage the students from VJTI to participate in this. And not only the boys, even the girls are, encouraged to become a part of this. And then even they have these students' bodies, like the e-cell, they have the innovation cell, and it starts from when you are in the college itself, right? The way you are, your upbringing, the way you are brought up when you are in your college, the way you get the support from your peers, not only the girls as well as the boys. So this comes, so whenever we have these councils set up, we see to it that at least 50% of the council members are girl
Okay.
students. And obviously, in engineering and technology, STEM education, the representation by girls has been, it's been a big issue. But slowly, yes, I would say, even as part of IEEE, I'm also a member of IEEE. Through that also, we are, trying to motivate these girls towards taking up this STEM as a career option, taking entrepreneurship as a career option. But it will happen. I'm very positive about it, because when I was an engineering student, we were only 2 girls as to 22 boys in my class, whereas now I see at least 50% are girls. At least they are taking up engineering as a career option, and most of the startups, if you see technology startups, they are coming up from engineering and technology institutes. So yes, definitely we are taking a lead in this, and as a CEO, being a woman, and seen my journey and the journey of my friends as well who were with me, it's really important that we see what I feel is the girls, it is in the upbringing. It starts from home. If you have, so I feel as a women, as mothers, it's very important that we start from home. We do not bring up a child as a mother, as a son or a daughter, but we bring them as a humans. So if we start doing that, definitely there is going to be a change, and I'm very positive. Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I have been a teacher, I have been an entrepreneur, and I'm taking care of the incubation center. And here, definitely, we are, even in the incubation center, we are 50% women, 50% are, yeah. So it's like, yeah, we are taking all the important steps that are required, so that girls, they feel confident of taking up entrepreneurship as a career choice.
Yeah, no, great. Anita, I'm just going to mention here, Harsh, you can get in touch with Anita and just look at if we can open a college chapter. I think some of the work that we're trying to do at IW, and just to let everyone know here, is also how we can influence attitude towards women at work when they're just at college. So I'm sure we can do that. But just diverting, I could see Rutuja nodding her head and smiling away. Yeah, I know when I was in engineering, we were 3 women out of 300, so that but I don't think those are measures we should look at, right? I think we should look at how far we need to go. While we still have very good representation in colleges today, we have very poor representation in senior management. And we know that there are many milestones that women drop out of. But moving from corporate back into the startups, and that
I think we lost Gitika, right?
Yeah, we lost Gitika.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe
all right.
some
Yeah, I was just
network
checking whether
issues, I
it's
think.
from my.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got her back.
okay.
Yeah. We can hear you, Gitika. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'd actually finished. Let me try again.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
no, what I was saying is, any stories, Rutuja, that made you smile while Anita was talking? Anything that you can remember personally that has influenced what you're doing today and how you're trying to bring gender diversity into the work that you're doing?
All right. So the thing is, personally, I think I never faced that unbiasedness, or rather, I would say that whatever unbiasedness I faced, that was in a positive side. So basically, being a woman or being a girl, there are certain schemes, right? Like even after establishing the startup, like there are particular schemes only for women founders, or there are particular awards which are for women founders. So somewhere I feel that sometimes I feel lucky to be a woman because there are so many schemes, right? So that is one very different aspect of it, I would say. The thing is, even at corporate, personally, I never faced that kind of unbiasedness in any point of time, or I might have just ignored, like it always depend upon how you take it. And, like if you're confident enough about yourself and your deliverables or your outcomes, then you are the only woman in the, like in the pack of that, all the men, and how does it matter? So because you have few points to say, and you have your what you can say, the deliverables or the abilities that you have already proven and that you want to narrate in front of the group, right? So the thing is, I come from the statistics background, and the career started when like the data science term was not there, and even I was not sure like what I'm going to do with having this statistics. Means I didn't know the career path, but I knew that this will really help me a lot. And that could be another reason that I never found out that disparity, because I was never into a sort of very common skill. I mean, like I was not an engineer, so that like I have many male engineers around me, and because of that, like I'm getting worried or something. I came from the background where even male were rare there, like not many statisticians actually followed their career as a statistician. So, or like they were never into data. These days now everyone want to be a data scientist. That's a different story altogether. But at least in first 10 to 12 years of my career, there were few people who actually graduated from the statistics and then they followed that path, or like they were just into data, right? And maybe the competition itself was very less initially, and that's why I never had this worry in my mind that I'm getting unbiased treatment because I'm a female. And then so that was from corporate. Like when I came to startup, right now it is still a bootstrap company. Like my business is running really very well, and I never had to go for funding and all. And because of that, again, maybe I haven't faced that situation. But like if as a statistician, yes, I at least if I go through the survey, especially there is something which is called as periodic labor force survey, which is generated by Ministry of Labor and Employment. And if I see the graphs over there, those are really worrisome. I mean, the way in which like they give all that statistics over there in terms of that women employment, and especially why the factors which are impacting against this women employment. If you see that that childcare and home commitment ratio is for women, it's almost like 70%. Like 70% of women are at home because they have this home commitment, as against the same factor for men is 0.8%. So that disparity, like if you compare those graphs, we can definitely witness over there, and that's really worrisome. So yeah, that much I can say.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, Rutuja. And Tanuja, we should call her to some of our startup forums and find out how she's managed to stay bootstrapped. I think a lot of us would like to know, right? But on another, I'm going to come back to you, Karishma, just in a bit, because you had a lot to say when you first started, and I cut you short. But just quickly, moving to Paula. And yeah, we've been hearing about how there are social factors, about how some of us are lucky, like Rutuja, to have all the support and encouragement. And but the numbers don't look good. But what would you do if you could in an industry that is clearly plagued with very serious gender bias, and and the numbers looking up, but clearly looking difficult again? I mean, just having a crib or some family support initiatives would probably not do it for the entertainment sector or the movie business, right? So how would you, if there was one thing you could do, what would that be?
I think working in the entertainment sector, we have to keep in mind the dual nature of the people we're talking to. On one side, we have the makers, who are almost all very urban people with some level of education. And then we have an audience, which is like the masses whom we are supposed to be speaking to. And it's really important that we keep in mind the vast difference between these two groups, and how if you are not very careful and aware of who you're talking to about what, how messages can be misconstrued. So messaging, I feel, is one of the most important things that we can do right now. And for us, I can't say what other people should do. But one of the things that we try to do is in our office, we have about 30 employees. There's maybe like a 55-45 gender ratio, men and women. And what we try and do is, on one hand, we try and be very conscious about trying to maintain a healthy gender ratio in the office. But at the same time, you have to be very careful about how you communicate that, even to these young kids. We have so many people in the office who are under the age of 30. And they are people who were working in, digital content. So they're watching international YouTubers like Andrew Tate and people like this. So there's this global influence coming in, which is already, like internationally, there's already backlash against feminism. In India, of course, there's backlash against feminism, but internationally, it's become like a very mainstream, popular attitude, or a very loud attitude, not mainstream. And on one hand, we have to be extra sensitive and understand that our audience that we're talking to is men and women. And men are constantly getting this message of women need special attention. And if you are a man who feels like they have a lot of problems, if you're a man who is trying to provide for your home, if you don't have a lot of family support, if you're struggling and working really hard and facing a lot of, oppression as well, maybe because of your caste or your economic background, you're going to see this, that, oh, women need all of this help, and think, okay, women have it so easy. They don't have to go out for work. They don't have to do these things. And you have to be very careful and make sure that the people you're talking to understand what you mean by all of this. Already, like, while we can see that in one side, this Bharat side of India, women have such a huge gap between, where they need to be to reach international levels, which is still not equal. But there's such a long way to go on one side of India. And on the other side, the urban side, you have a lot more progress being seen. It's very important to always keep these two circles in mind. And I think probably the best thing we can do is, yes, while we support women and we try and mentor women and we try and uplift women, we also equally need to be paying attention to educating men, supporting the right kind of men, and giving out that positive messaging so that people remember feminism is equality of both sexes. It's not women over men. And men need to hear this message a lot as well. It's more of like a hypersensitivity. And I know that there will be women who disagree with me on this, but this has been my take. And from our experience of experiencing that backlash for no reason, it is very important to keep both sides in mind. And I think as women, we're good at doing this. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of it in the first place. But yeah, I think it's very important that we have to be sensitive to both sides.
Yeah, I love that. I think the idea of messaging and getting the idea out right in the perspective that it should be viewed, right, as a way to help a community that's essentially vulnerable or minority by nature, and not as something that's been given like a quota or a special treatment. It's absolutely critical. So at IWN, we run a program, Tanuja will talk about it, called #He for She. And the whole perspective was, it's always women talking to women about women issues, right? But it's really about making sure that the gender that's in power comes and steps in on their own accord to support the one that's not in power. And I'm going to ask Karishma, that you started this conversation today talking about mentorship. That's when I stopped you. And I'd love to hear what you have to say, about mentoring women to stay in the workforce, especially in startups, which are very, very challenging environments, and especially in tech, where you clearly, like you said, in a boys' club. How would you do that? And would you get men involved in it?
So thank you so much, Gitika. And I think both Paula and I think if Tanuja is making that conversation happen, then I think it's the most important thing. Let's get more men into this conversation, because we're not trying to solve for women with women. And I think at least the way I think about it, Gitika, I think about it at capital level, infrastructure level, and a mentorship level. Right? At the most basic mentorship level, I think women need to be mentored at home, at work, anywhere where in the ecosystem through investors. I think they need to be mentored to be more unapologetic about their choices. I think as women, we have less permission to be unapologetically myself. I mean, when 20 years ago, when I was starting out, I was told that you should perhaps choose a safer profession as opposed to consulting. Today, it is, corporates are considered a little bit more safe. So a safer profession than a startup, right? Permission, societal permission to take risk, right, is the mentoring that we need to give. It's okay because startups also come with a very high failure rate, right? So it's okay to fail. It's okay to put yourself out there. It's okay to put in the hustle, even if you don't see the outcomes, right? It's okay to be unapologetic about the choices that you make. So I think that's the mentorship. Infrastructure, I'm sorry, but across all levels, and I'll talk very, very openly. We tried to do an initiative where we're trying to do stalls on the road, and I said we'll only hire women. And you know what? We don't have public infrastructure that can support that. And this was in NCR, and safety was a concern, sanitation was a concern, just infrastructure which allows equal opportunity. I mean, it's not equal opportunity if somebody's life and happiness is at risk every time they step out to work, right? We're living in very cozy environments, but if you go down to the grassroots level, and if we don't allow for that permission, then no women would want to be on the road, right? We need to make it safer and sanitary for them. How many women have tried using public loos?
Yeah.
First of all, they don't exist, and secondly, even if they do exist, then they're not perhaps the quality that they should be, right? Let's make infrastructure more equal. And the last is, I think, capital. While I agree with what Paula is saying in terms of social backlash, I think in India, because the education has been at a certain level, and hence, the cultural moorings are at a certain level, we do need to provide capital, which steers towards more women jumping into the fray. I'm a capitalist at heart, so I believe that if you put the money there, then eventually the outcome will follow. So that's one guaranteed way to make it happen. Yes, it will incur the wrath of a few in the initial years, but let's say a decade or a couple of decades from now, that field will be much more level playing, and then at that point you can get rid of all of these measures. But yes, by all means, I believe that it's a combination of all, mentorship, permission to take risk and be unapologetic, infrastructure, and again, could not support that enough. I come from Delhi. It's still unsafe for women to be out beyond a certain hour. And capital. And if you put all these together, then you can perhaps start. These are not problems that you'll solve overnight, but you can start shifting the curve, which is really what you want to do.
Yeah. So 3 things, the golden rule that might actually move the needle, right? Well done, well said. Just a last question to everyone. I think we're about a couple of minutes to closing, and whoever wants to pick this up, really, to say, is there a story we've seen somewhere else, in another company, somewhere around the world? If we were just as a precursor to this, on our own WhatsApp group, Ravi, Tanuja, and myself, kind of sharing some links about some stories that we've been reading in other companies or in other countries. Anything inspirational that you think could serve as a model for how we might run something like this in our own way? Tough question, but
I can pitch in. I have. Are you guys aware of the Lijjat Papad Cooperative? I run a food business. Right? I have to say that is the most inspirational way of having built a business, man or woman. I think that cooperative has shown us how a commodity can be branded, how inclusive that entire initiative can be, and how it can be done in the most local way. So it's actually good for the people, good for the planet, and good for the society on so many levels. And if I think a cooperative can come and drive that, then I think more power to the rest of us.
And a capitalist can definitely follow. Yeah, well, actually, that's a great way to end it. I wouldn't want to take away from that line. So, any questions, Tanuja, Ravi? I think we've got a lot of people in some groups which are not visible here. But Ravi, I hear that a very large group, right?
There is a large group, and before I ask Harsh or Anand, because I think they're collating the questions, there was a question that came in a little while back from Sheetal Shah, which says, how are you planning to reach out to tier 2 and tier 3 cities which have skill as well? I think this was probably to one of the panelists, but I quite frankly think anybody could answer this, including anyone wants to answer this?
I think I can go for this.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was for you. I think it was for you when you were speaking, if I recall. But so please go ahead.
Yeah, to whom? Me or Anita, ma'am?
Anita.
Okay.
I think when Anita was speaking, this question popped up.
Yeah, so actually, as a state, see, this tier 2, tier 3 cities targeting is being done not only at the central level, but also each of the states, they are taking care of this. So as far as the Maharashtra state is concerned, because I have been working here for almost 35 years now, I would say that, through this Maharashtra State Innovation Society, we are having this startup yatra every year, wherein, we go to these tier 2, tier 3 cities and we take these ideas from the, local colleges there, and they are given a platform every year to pitch their ideas. And then out of those ideas, some ideas are also provided some funding from the state. Yeah. And not only that, I would say even the central government, they have a lot of schemes which are targeting these cities. Not only even women entrepreneurs like Karishma was saying, funding. So yes, definitely the Startup India portal, if you look at, there are around 17 schemes which are targeting only towards women entrepreneurs. So funds are there, lots of funds are there for women. But we need to, give them, so actually educating, like you said, and providing the necessary infrastructure. If we are able to do that, yes, definitely we can, look at it. Yeah. So yeah, that's all.
Okay. Harsh and Anand, any questions that have come in?
Can I ask if any questions around tech? I know we've been talking about startup and we've talked about women in general, but if there's something around tech, we just came in from a meeting this morning, a roundtable on AI and ethics. And, we're hearing about how a lot of the movement in tech is kind of moving the needle on everything that we're doing. And I wondered about how many, Rituja, you talked about data scientists, but, none of these, from the numbers I've seen, a lot of women are not making decisions in tech. They're working in tech, but not making decisions in tech. Any questions there, or would anyone like to talk a little bit about that?
We're just checking the YouTube Live and Alpha platform also, ma'am. So,
okay, Ravi, would you mind if we took this opportunity to ask the team a question around that?
I had a positive example also, if you don't mind, in terms of a wonderful company that's been doing great work in terms of supporting women, incorporating women, is Super Bottoms. Pallavi Uttagi's.
Yeah, I know Pallavi, right?
Yeah, you know Pallavi.
Yeah, she's the way that she's integrated women and mothers into her business, and how they have structured their business to be supportive of their employees and their team, and the amount of payback that they seem to be getting from having such an adaptive working model is something which I find really outstanding. It's not easy, especially to have a consumer goods company which has such a traditional setup where you're constantly also innovating and fighting against the market and always trying to bring out new things. I think that she's done an outstanding job.
Good, nice example.
Yeah, I think just to continue with the example, like uh, there are a couple of companies I know who are into upskilling, right? And especially if they are focused towards some kind of a tech, including data science and AI. So, the business model is quite similar. I mean, like they hire these women as instructors, right? Because those classes, even if they are online, they are at the in the afternoon time or something where these ladies can manage, right? So they hire these people. So I think it's a win-win situation that, like these are graduates and with a good engineering background or something. And if for whatever reason they have to be at home, at least they can utilize that time to be a part of these kind of initiatives where they can utilize their skills. So I think, like the way in which we know that traditionally as well, all the educational institutes, the professors are women, right? So because most of the times the women are the ones who go to educational institutes. Similarly, all these upskilling or learning type of all the startups, mainly their employees are women. So
Yeah,
I can see.
I think it's a great idea. It's a wonderful comment because as tech is changing very rapidly, it's a very good way to keep women, right? Anyone who's taken a break from work or seen or allowed someone to take a break from work knows how difficult it is to come back after a year or two when things have changed so much in the workplace. So I think that's a great example of how we're keeping women abreast of what's happening in tech and making and enabling them to stay relevant.
There's
And I think even Tata
Sorry.
companies, even Tatas, they have their schemes where they
Back
get a
to
second
work.
chance. Yeah.
Correct.
So I believe, as we go ahead, as we have, more of hybrid type of working, it's not like something very rigid, 9 to 5 or 8 to 6. As we go ahead, we have more of hybrid workspaces. More and more women will become a part of that. And even otherwise, boys have started, sharing their loads. And so slowly, it is happening. And we can see some positive things happening. So you see, it's like, we don't have to say it's men against women. We don't have to say it's like male against female. It's more of a collaboration, right? We should not make it as a competition. If you make it as a competition, like Paula said, it's going to backlash. It's backlash. But it's, if we say, put it as, we convey the message that it's, you are a family and you are collaborating towards the success of your family together. It's not a competition in the work. You have the list of jobs to do. You have the, two work people who can do the work, and then you collaborate and do the work. It's fine. I mean, that's how it should be. It should be looked at, even at the workplace, even at the startups. Wherever it is, if it is a more of a collaboration than a competition, I think it works better.
Yeah, sounds good. I think, Ravi, we're right on time.
Yes. We may have, I have actually two other questions that have just popped up here on my screen. So I'll take one of them, and if we still have time, maybe one more. One says, this is about helping startup skilling, actually. And it says, do we have a system which can help women entrepreneurs with certain areas where they're stuck with their startup, for example, sales or marketing and so on and so forth? It could be tech as well. And I think having sort of worked with mentored startups for the last 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, clearly, when you're at a really early stage, having people with the requisite skills and being able to afford them is also a challenge. So this question is, do we have a system which can help women with certain areas? I don't know, Gitika, perhaps the CII itself has something to help, and the IWN can probably help in this area. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's right. We do have a full-fledged program called Level Up. Tanuja, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So I think definitely CII IWN, one of the key initiatives that we are really working and passionate about is supporting women entrepreneurs. And, forums like this. I feel while we've really discussed collaboration, whether feminism, the right balance, in my limited experience, I've done 15 years of corporate world and I've done 10 years of running my own arts-based company called Furtado School of Music. One thing is for sure, that there are biases when we went for a fundraise. and we know how they perceive that the woman can build a unicorn. Then there is this whole understanding, if you're building a tech platform, when a woman is a founder, what is the experience? So such kind of biases are there. In forums such as the IWN and CII, we come together and we try and address that. We need a more larger community of all preaching the same song. Frankly, all of us are convert. All of this in this, it's so nice that each one of us have definitely broken some barriers, have defined certain way how we want to take our careers. It's the narrative that we need to spread to many more who probably, because of the challenges like what Karishma said, infrastructure is not there, and such lots of other challenges that come on day to day, how they can be inspired by all of you all and how they can circumvent that. So IWN is the platform that tries to do its best, but like that, there are many such platforms. I think, I mean, I wouldn't just say because we are from IWN, I know IWN, Gitika, me, and a lot of such like-minded people come and say, what can we do our best in terms of share these narratives, share these challenges, and like Level Up is one such platform. Within the organization, we choose people, we mentor them. In fact, there's some amazing work done by the team on ground, where I know women who've come from such platform, who have gone through this training, have told me that it has been one of my best experience in my life. I never knew that I will, that it will be so transformative. So, everyone does their bit. I think it's about that, right? In fact, each one of you sharing this, being here on this platform, are doing your bit by encouraging many women. And that's the motto, how each one can take it forward.
Also, ma'am, just a very classy example that, I want to mention the session that we had at Wellinger, and similarly,
Yes.
the session that we had at the Nasik College, where Keshav sir was, KKV College. Yes. So that was under the Campus to Career initiative. So reaching out to the cities and, the girl students and encouraging them.
See if you can join us on that. I think, the movement from using to reach women at an early stage before they step out and start into a career role.
Perfect.
And we'd love to have VJTI also join us. I think that's a big initiative, Veran. Very powerful.
Yeah, definitely we can be a.
If you allow, I can add a few things over here, because I myself am a beneficiary of many programs. So I would definitely add a few things over here. So right now we are incubated at 7-8 different places, right? Out of which I would actually mention 3 which are only women focused. So one is there's a program called as Goldman Sachs Women 10,000 program. So it's a global program, and in India it is run by IIM Bangalore. And so they have certain criteria. I mean, they have to have certain revenue or certain number of employees, because they just want to see that like whether you are holding just an idea or like you really have a passion to pursue it, right? And the criteria is not really very hectic. It's like very basic minimal criteria, and with which they select you. And then there is a training on the Bangalore campus itself, where you go there and so they have a certain thing. But to me, it was really, very transformative program myself, because the thing is, I never had any management background before. All my degrees were into technical, right? So even though I started my business, I didn't really know how to run the business, right? But when I went over there and, like the way in which they taught you, or like they explained the case studies, that was really very transformative. And it is, of course, it's Women 10,000 program. So that is one thing. Then secondly, I'm part of this one program which is called as Her Start Accelerator. It is from Gujarat University, and it's in collaboration with UNESCO. So you have that United Nations ka brand as well. And again, they provide like a lot of support for the grant and funding and everything. So that is second program. And third is, it was suggested by VJTI itself. VJTI is one of our incubators again. And through them, like we got selected for Vadhwani Foundation. Again, that was like one of the, program focused for women. And at that point of time, I have done so many programs that I didn't want to be part of that program. So I just asked them whether one of our product owners can be part of that, and they readily agreed to it. That was really different, because usually they expect that only founders has to be there and all. So one of my product owners, so I could see the transformation in her, like when she started attending that program. So those are, in incubation or mentorship point of view. And Gitika, one thing that I wanted to mention, that you said that, okay, how come I'm still bootstrapped? Because, like I'm having like lot of grants and cash prizes so far. So I would say that amount itself is very big, which is at least so far it's enough for us to run the business. So one of the things I would really like to mention, that Dell has one program again for women. It's called Dell Women Entrepreneurship Network, and they have their national level contest. So I was the winner of the last year, and they provide 25 lakhs worth of technology. So all my laptops and screens and servers and everything, those are sponsored by Dell. Similarly, like through VJTI, we had received some grant using which like we've developed one of our products, which has social impact, like it's for visually impaired people. So that way, like we have received so many different things, and that's why I opened up my statement saying that I feel very lucky that I'm a woman, because there are so many schemes, So yeah, so that's how. So there are many schemes, and again, the way in which Anita said that on the startup portal itself, there are multiple schemes for women. So I urge all women who want to pursue that entrepreneurship role. There are like a lot of support, at least in India. I don't know about global thing, but at least in India, and you have to be just sort of on lookout that what are the different support you can get from the available infrastructure.
Yeah, no, thanks for this. I think there's a lot of tactical information, not just thoughts, that has come out of this group. And thank you for generously sharing those links. But I can see Ravi tapping his finger here. Let's get a move on. So I'm going to hand it back to Tanuja and Ravi. But before I do that, thank you, Rutuja, Anita, Paula, Karishma, and everybody in this room for making it such a wonderful discussion today.
Thank you so
Lovely.
much.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. Paula, by the way, I would like to say I'm your great fan. My entire family. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Excellent session. Rutuja, you giving all the list of places where women founders can go and find opportunities has been great.
And they can, they can reach out to me on a LinkedIn. I have kept that thing open, that if people want to reach out to me for any career, like guidance or something, I'm open for that. I love fostering women empowerment, so I can do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We are running short of time because of the next panel should begin immediately now. Thank you, Gitika. It was an amazing session. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
We are segueing from one to the other. I'm hi everyone. Hi Niranjana. I can see Niranjana. I can see Roshni. I can see Divya. Is Rachna also here?
No, Rachna has sent a mail to there's some emergency at her end, so she's not going to be able to join.
Okay. So we've got Roshni, we've got Divya, and we've got Niranjana. That's correct?
Yes.
And do we have the star of our event, Nina? Does it?
I can't spot.
He's just joining, sir.
He's just joining.
Yes, sir. We've just checked. Yeah.
So we'll wait for a minute or two, and then we'll kick off. But while we wait, thank you very much, to the three of you for making time. It's a busy afternoon for everyone, midweek.
The previous session was actually very, very nice.
So
wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
It was. And it was a very nice session. Yeah. And Rutuja, since you're already there in the session continuing, thank you so much for all those tips. It was very, like Ritika mentioned, it was very generous of you to share that as well. Thank you so much.
Hey, hi, Nina.
Hi,
Hi. I had joined as an attendee, so I was listening to all what you're saying. Huh?
Oh, you were? Okay.
Some of the words are not so complimentary.
Okay. We'll start now that we have So, welcome to the second session of the CII Western Regions Initiative. And as I mentioned in the first session, this is essentially a platform, for women entrepreneurs that we are trying to create under the aegis of the Maharashtra State Council. And whilst we do this, we're very fortunate to have a, fantastic collaboration from the IWN. And Tanuja, who's also here, chairs the IWN. So thanks, Tanuja, for co-creating this.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you.
And sorry.
No, just was thanking. I think there was a voice lag.
And what I'm going to do is, quickly introduce the panelists. And, we have Dr. Roshni Sandhani. She's an endocrinologist and the founder of Resan Health. More from her when the session starts. There's Divya Gupta, who's a director of Avishkar Capital, and there is Niranjana Nilakantan, who's the co-founder and COO of Tesol. And moderating this discussion will be Ninad Karpe, who, to the audience at least, needs absolutely no introduction. But for the benefit of some of the panelists who may not have known him, he's Ninad is a CII veteran, having been the past chairman of the CII Western Region. He's a partner with 100x.vc, a VC firm that invests in early stage startups. And then, just for the love of it, Ninad produces some of the finest Marathi plays. So over to you, Ninad.
Thank you, Ravi. Those introduction words are more as a friend than objective introduction of myself, but I'm delighted to be here. How much time do we have, Ravi, so that I plan accordingly?
We have a hard stop at 5 o'clock, so we can plan it accordingly, keeping some time for Q&A.
Okay, great. So great, lovely to be on this panel. I am always intrigued and excited to be on women's panel. And I always follow my son's advice. And my elder son now is married, so 3 of them, son and daughter-in-law. Dad, don't talk. You're on the women's panel, just listen for a change. So I'm going to listen for a change. That's the advice I've been given. But it is such an interesting topic, and hats off to the organizers for bringing up this topic. This is discussed generally over cocktails, whisper sessions and breakfast, but it's never discussed in the open. This is a topic which, in BBC, they have to have this hard talk kind of topic, where you really grill someone on it. But no, I'm not going to have a hard talk. We're just going to have some interesting discussion, hopefully some take-home items. We have a fantastic panel. There are many challenges faced by women founders, and I have been interviewing some of them and meeting some of them. Recently, I had a fireside session with Naya Sagi also, and she really mentioned about the kind of things which she faces. And these are things which can be, explained only by a woman founder. As a firm, before I came to the session, I said, let me not be embarrassed by my own statistics. As at 100x, how have we done funding women co-founders? So I quickly ratcheted statistics this morning. We have funded 142 startups, and 30% of them have women co-founders. So I heaved a sigh of relief. I said, Ravi, I think I can moderate this panel. If it was in single digits, I would have resigned and said, no, I can't do it. So it's not too bad. But I'll tell you one thing, so we are a 5-year-old firm. This is not a commercial for 100x, but just to give an indication of how things are moving, we fund very early stage. We get tons of pitch decks, in thousands every year. And one trend I'm noticing, particularly post-COVID, is that we are getting a lot of pitches from tier 2, tier 3 cities, and a lot more. I don't have statistics available. This is more, anecdotal and what I'm seeing, because we see, I listen to at least 5 to 7 pitches every day. Now, as I'm in the session, I won't be able to listen to one pitch, but that's fine. I'm seeing a lot more women coming forward, particularly tier 2, tier 3. That's a very interesting trend I've noticed over the last 1 year. but I'm not supposed to talk. All of you are supposed to talk. So I hope we can kind of come up with some broad solutions over this. Let me start with Divya, because I thought you're probably the right person. I read, recently the magazine called Fast Company. I read it very often, and if you don't, I mean, you should. It's got always has some interesting articles. In October 2023, just recently, there's an article. It said that the VC industry, only 1.9% funding happens in US to women founders. That
Yes.
was pretty low.
Yes.
And one of the reasons, and I would like to have your reaction on this, one of the big reasons the author gave was that in the VC industry has sprung up in the, and I'm kind of summarizing what he has said, sprung up in what she has said, sprung up in Silicon Valley, and is still heavily influenced by the bro, tech bro culture.
Yes.
And since the industry is tech was traditionally male oriented, investors are male oriented, so are
Yes.
entrepreneurs. Does this tech bro culture exist in India?
Um, you know what? There's a term which I also recently came across and I found it quite interesting. It's a kind of bias and it's called homophily, which essentially means you want to be with people, uh, know people, become friends, or invest in people who are similar to you. It's just your comfort zone. And that bias is very human and it, I think, exists in India also. So as a result of underrepresentation in VC and investor ecosystem of women, this would flow through the investment pipeline and similar underrepresentation in founder community as well. So, homophily can be converted into bro codes slang, but there is some level of such bro codeness in India. It has reduced quite a lot, but it would be a lie to say that it does not exist.
Okay, great. So hopefully the bro culture gets out of the way very soon, and we have more of non-bro culture emerging. So, attendees who was there, if you have any question, just put it in the chat. I will take it as and when it comes. Let me move to Niranjana. How would you describe the current landscape for women founders who are wanting to raise VC capital?
So, Mr. Kape, I'll talk about my personal experience. And to give you a little bit of an introduction, what we do as a business is we are a technology company, a product company, and we do monitoring and movement, technology solutions for monitoring movement of food and pharmaceutical products in the cold chain space. And we're a 10-year-old company. We've gone through, I joined, the business was started in 2013 and I joined in 2017, 18. We've been through, we have about four VCs on our cap table. All right. And so one thing, so while, linking it to the previous panel and the discussions on that as well, one thing that I have personally not faced or come across is, issues on at a personal level. Whenever we are out there in the market trying to raise funds, I've not personally come across a bias against women in that space. Right. And but as as part of this panel and the discussion, I've been doing my research, and definitely there is a lot of talk about women finding the funding disadvantage for women in general. And what my perspective on this is that so one that the positive side to it is that there are mostly with the large institutional investors, there are clearly benefits for diversity in the founding team, right? Because a lot of their LPs also mandate that. So I think having some diversity in the founding team is seen as an advantage now, and a lot of them do see that as an advantage, which is a major positive sense that we have. But I think my perspective in terms of the overall number of women in the startup ecosystem being much smaller than men is because it is a representation of the larger workforce. right? Wherein the entire workforce itself, women as a gender are grossly underrepresented. And there's a lot of historical baggage to it. And it is a big positive. Again, I say that, like I said, it's been 10 years that I have been in the startup ecosystem itself. And things are definitely changing. We still have a long way to go. But I would see it more than a VC, a funding disadvantage to being, an issue with the larger ecosystem where women generally in the, in the workspace are underrepresented.
Okay, I'll park it at that. I'll come back to you. You touched upon LPs also asking, so I'll want to come back to you with that later. Let me move to Dr. Roshni. And what are the biggest challenges you think women founders face when they go to VC fund? For example, just hypothetically, a young girl presents, and there's a room full of 4 guys, and she is. What are the challenges you think she is facing in a situation like that?
Yeah, thanks, Ninad. Thanks, Ravi, for having me here. I think that's a very useful question. I was recently at a networking event at a company that engages in funding early stage startups, and the person in charge of that meeting was a male, and he specifically wanted to create this as a women focused event. So what he did was he made sure that his guest list was only female, and he made sure that only 2 of his employees, males, stood around. So the room in this funding-based conversation and networking event had about, I would say, 85 to 100 women and 3 men in a room. Talking money, talking VC, talking, all the various stages of what kind of series the money moves in and out. And he finally took the mic towards the end of the session. And he said that today I can feel what it must feel like for all of you women when you are physically underrepresented in a room full of people of the opposite gender. So it's very difficult to describe a visceral experience to someone with words. I think you have to physically feel it to know what it feels like to be the only one there.
So any words of advice you would give, to women, whether you like it or not, eventually it goes to investment committee.
It does.
And investment committee today, I would think 80% males, probably 25. I'm just throwing a number. This is not backed by any research, but maybe 70%. How does a woman founder face any tips you want to give? How does she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and growing up, I had to battle with this. Is it really true that women have the shorter end of the stick, or that women are at a disadvantage? And holding that thought pattern used to frustrate me. And, as my own self-monitoring of my thoughts has evolved, I'm like, I don't like holding on to thoughts that limit me. Because in this lifetime, my gender is what it is, and we're an Indian group, and I may deviate to one deeply spiritual thing and then come back into highly logical. Well, maybe I'll give you the logical answer first. Is as long as in this life I am in a female form, I have to win my fight, right? I'm here to win. So what's the point of holding my own female gender against me when I'm walking into a room? If I have to discuss money, if I have to discuss numbers, why am I making myself conscious of my gender? Because you end up reflecting that out. If you're feeling like you have 1 foot down, you need to be 1 foot forward. And I've been mentored on this. My friends, I have females who are in the VC community, very successful leader women. And they've mentored me on this. And they've said, Roshni, you need to go 1 foot, front foot, and as a indoctrination of women.
Lean in.
What's that? Lean in, exactly. Lean in, exactly. Facebook. And so front foot, stepping in. And I think, how do you do that? How do you start making that feel natural to yourself? It's easy to say it to someone. And what has worked for me is I start understanding, how when you do sales or marketing, you have to write the copy so that it gets into the head of your target audience. You're not supposed to be talking what you think. You have to talk from the eyes of who's listening. And so the people who are listening in the other side, they want to see value. They want to see a founder that if I pick the virtues, forget gender, let's say they had to only look at pitch decks or founder, descriptions. I think you're looking for endurance, you're looking for intelligence, you're looking for integrity and values, because I think, I was reading Harvard Business Review. I think it's really, they say, right, it's not MVP is not minimum viable product. It's about valuable product. Is what is going to be the value that this founder is thinking. None of these things are attached to gender. And I think women have over the millennia proven that they have endurance, that they have strength, that they have confidence, that they have drive. We've done lots of things that require drive. And maybe we need to repurpose those strengths into the corporate world, into the world of finance, which may be new. Maybe it's only last one generation or 1 century that we're turning the tables. And the conditioning is in the environment. So, but if you don't bother yourself with the environment, you become that one change at a time, But in interest of time, I'll now add the spiritual thing, which helped me really at a very, very deep level, is at the level of soul, there is no gender. So I think that I meditate a lot and I use that a lot. And I think if somebody's open to that line of thinking, I use that as well.
Wow.
On this, I just
sure,
have an
good. Add, yeah. Do you have
as well. So I also think it's not just a founder's job to think about how is the IC composed and IC just has men and how should I be. It's not their job. In fact, it's majorly our job as the venture capital community that we do two things. One, have representation on ICs. It's on us. It's really not just on them. So it's our job to have enough representation in our investment team and ICs, and also check ourselves for our unconscious biases, which are actually hampering growth or investments, if they are. There might be. So, I mean, a lot of work has to be done from founders end to, and Roshni said a lot of interesting points, but similar work has to be done by VCs. So there should be equal ownership. I think more ownership should go towards VC because we are the one who will be perpetrating biases that Roshni and others would be subjected to.
Okay, the ball is back in our court, VCs. But, I loved Dr. Roshni with the way you said, win my fight and soul, very, very nice, interesting. So I'm going to ask Niranjana, you mentioned about LPs nudging to have diversity in the founding team of VCs. So in India, we saw a very interesting concept over the last couple of years outside of the VC industry, where government mandated on boards that there should be women. When it was introduced, there was a little bit of uneasiness and hue and cry. But I think by and large, it is working very well. I think now we have some hindsight over it. In the VC industry, government does put a lot of money. They have fund of funds, and they do have, SIDBI and others put a lot of money. Do you think the time is right to say that, put a mandate by them saying, no, we won't give you this big amounts unless in the investment committee, at least 33% are women?
I'm not sure I want to take a stance on that, right? Because what I think, see, there are, like Divya spoke about the biases, right? When you have more representation, you're clearly able to see another perspective. So I think having a larger representation clearly helps. Having policy mandates also clearly help, right? Because they give greater opportunity. I was at so I'll go back to what Roshni said. Two things that she said, which I have also made peace with, and I think that's really helped me. One was that I grew up believing there is no discrimination, and I used to feel very, very uncomfortable talking about even that discrimination was something that I just did not want. I just did not believe in that. But over the years, it's been almost 20 years that I've been working. And over the years, I have just had to accept the fact that it does exist. There is no denying that, right? It does exist, and it is a tough fight. Every day, everything is a fight. Now, while I bring that, and I am also in a system where, ours is a manufacturing industry. It's a very traditional industry where predominantly it's a male-dominated industry, right? And you very, very rarely see women. It is and we have people across. So we have blue collar workers, we have senior management who are men. So there is people across, but it's a predominantly male dominated industry. And a couple of months back, I was speaking with someone, and they said, and I used to this whole thing of how do you deal with this entire, how do you kind of fight your way through, because you just have to. And they said, when one of my mentors, he said, Niranjana, at the end of the day, now you cannot deny or you can't do anything about the fact that you're a woman, right? So you can't you accept that. And I thought at that point, I thought it was, it was very, very silly it's very silly. But I think that is what changed it for me. The moment you accept it, then you start picking your fights. You start also, as Roshni said, right, speaking up, irrespective of what other people are thinking of you. And I will also draw on to the previous panel, which also said, where I think it was Paula who said that people start coloring their, the way you are when you push your way through, people start seeing you in a certain way. So I think it is a combination of both, Mr. Karpe. There has to be policy mandates. There has to be some kind of a systemic change. But at the same time, women, we just have to fight it through. At least I personally believe that for a generation or two, we have to make this fight. And we have to, I think Tanuja mentioned that earlier, where she said, we just have to pay it forward, where we encourage people to make that fight with us. And I think 2 generations down the line, things will change. Things are slowly changing, but it's a combination of multiple things. Mandating a certain representation alone, I doubt will solve the problem.
Okay, so that alone will not solve the problem, is what I'm hearing at the end. So Divya, are there any sectors where you have seen real success by women co-founders, or are there particular areas you have seen, or there's no such thing here?
I mean, I've not come across any study which talks about something like this, but anecdotally speaking, I've generally seen women creating great businesses for women. So you'll see a lot of consumer companies would end up having women co-founders or founders, I guess because they understand the consumer type quite a lot. So this is one trend I've seen in consumer segment. Someone mentioned super bottoms. Again, mother creating a company for mother. So their passion and the need to create this company comes from a really pure source. So I've anecdotally seen this working in consumer space, not so much in others.
Okay, so the questions have started rolling in. I'll try and take some of them as we speak. So maybe Roshni, I don't know if you would be able to respond to this. Are there any resources or support structures? You mentioned about mentoring, so I'll come to that separately. Mentoring is a part of it, but here the person is asking, are there any resources or support structures, I guess including mentoring, which are beneficial to women entrepreneurs in the scaling phase?
Yeah, so I'm at a bootstrap stage. I'm not yet at that stage where we are actively out there. We're expecting growth in the next months. But I think it comes down to forming that community, right? We need to know where the safe community is. And where I have gotten my mentoring is through Kellogg. So my husband Neeraj, he's an MBA from Kellogg, and there are a lot of successful people in that network. And there's sort of like a default trust when you have a community that has all these various levels of successful people in there. So I think mentoring does exist over there, and that's where I have gone when I have these sort of entrepreneurial questions, because I sort of became an entrepreneur without even realizing it. I'm a medical doctor trying to solve healthcare problems. And so I think maybe somebody else can take this question to tell us where can we go? Yeah.
Let me take this up. So there are various categories of places where you can go to. One, funds-led. So a couple of funds have taken this mandate to create such forums or networking platforms or special programs for women founders. 2 names that are coming to my mind is CXXO by Kalari and Spark by Sequoia. So these are a few platforms that they have created. Second is women investors in general. You can, really write to a lot of women investors on LinkedIn. So we have our internal community here as well, and most of women investors have this agenda of promoting more women entrepreneurs. So go to LinkedIn, just write to them. They'll connect you to more people, more founders, more people who've gone through the journey you're going through. So just I mean, if you write to 10 people, 5 might not reply, but I'm guaranteeing you there are enough people in the industry sitting on the other side of the table who really want to come out and help you. So just reach out, uh, you know, straight in. And then there are a lot of founder groups as well, lots and lots of it. One that's coming to my mind is there's a D2C women's group. I don't know, it has some 500 women. And any small problem people have, hey, I'm not finding a good marketing person, can you help me out? Or so they just post, and everybody's really helping each other a lot. They are on LinkedIn also, and it was some process to enter that group. So there are lots of founder-led platforms also, and if you Google, you'll find such sector-specific platforms as well. So I would put these 3 categories in case you want to reach out and start networking.
No,
I want to add one
Sure,
thing
go
here.
ahead.
And I think when you're talking about the mentoring part, it is while I think personally for me it's something that has helped tremendously. And while I do reach out to women mentors, I think it's equally important to have an equal number of male mentors who support you, because personally for me it has been a huge help, because I think it was Roshni who said that you want to, a lot of the time you want to tell people something that they would like to hear, or in a way they like to hear, right? And having male mentors, I think greatly helps in that sense, because you're able to have a very different perspective, right? Even when you're stuck in a situation, or when you're stuck in a situation where you're facing any kind of, if maybe not discrimination, but maybe microaggression or whatever, however you choose to call that, I think reaching out to a male mentor also helps, because it gives you a very different perspective, and that also that helps you modify your stance. So I think having a healthy mix of male and female mentors, irrespective of the community, so it's an investor community, founder community, your seniors, entrepreneurs, whatever is the community, but having a healthy mix of male and female mentors, I think, has personally really helped me. And I think that is one piece of strong advice I give everyone. Don't just rely on the women network, but also have an equal number of male mentors you can bounce your ideas with. I think that's important.
Wow, Ravi and me are heaving a sigh of relief. Thank God we are here.
Absolutely. For a while, I've been thinking now to go and hide somewhere from the time the session started at 3 o'clock.
But Tanuja's, I can read her mind. She's saying, join IWN. We'll get all the mentorship and networking.
You read it well, and I think there's this one point, he for she, and I feel Ravi, you and Ninad definitely need, we need to cheer for you guys, people like you all who are in that sense pragmatic, supportive. See, the narrative has to collectively change.
Right.
I don't like, even in the earlier group, we said the balance is important. I loved, Roshni, what you said. It's the soul has no, gender. I think at the same time, it's the balance. It's a balance of not going on the other extreme side of we women, blah, 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 and getting a very negative connotation, but not speaking about it, not having any of these forums is also not helping. I feel these forums, and we've met people, many women have reached out that this conversation at this point helped me a lot. And that's shocking. Frankly, we feel, acha, I mean, never thought. But all of you all collectively are doing that. So thank you. It makes, and IWN is just a small bit, is doing its bit. And people like us are coming, trying to do our best and handing over the baton to other people to take it forward. So the idea is that the narrative our kids will be in, the narrative, the future generation, that has to change, because somebody did that for us, right? So I feel thank you to both of you all as well, and to all of you all.
Well,
Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for inviting. But, I never lose an opportunity to push the envelope for IWN and CII.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So there's a question from one of the audience, and I think I'll have to ask Divya to respond, because on investor, so maybe you're the right person. What ways can a founder gets constructive feedback from investors. So I'm assuming, let's say, a woman founder can get constructive feedback. See, one of the things they keep saying, founders, is, let's say you reject or you don't invest in a startup. They keep saying, okay, we need feedback, and obviously no one is geared up to give feedback to the tons of pitches you get, and that becomes then a matter of opinion. But is there a solution to that, particularly if you want to encourage women founders?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just tell you what I have observed and noticed. I've observed some of the founders are really good in taking feedback. And I'll just tell you what they typically do. And Ninad, you can chip in. You're also on the same boat. What actually a lot of time works is towards the end of the call, a lot of founders just ask, what do you think? What do you think about the market? What do you think? I mean, they just point blank ask, what are your thoughts? I know you've not taken the final call, but what are you thinking right now? Point blank during the call, they have no option but to be real and answer your question. And a lot of people take a moment to do that, and they like giving feedback. So one advice is just ask it during the call. Second, one or two follow-ups will do you some good, because a lot of investors are very busy. Some of us are taking pitches like 3 or 4 every day. So it's possible that it slipped through cracks in their mind. So just write to them. If there's something specific you would like to hear, do ask on that. Also, you can ask for coffee. I love talking to you. Can we just go out on a coffee? I know you cannot invest at this point in time, but can you guide me on these 2-3 topics? Some might say no, but there'll be a lot of people who say yes. So just go create a personal, informal rapport and then ask your questions. So yeah, these are few ideas which have worked with me. This has got me talking. So I'm sharing that with you.
Sure, Tanuja has more ideas.
No, I just have a follow-on question,
Sure.
both of you all. Is there a pattern do you all see in women founders when they are pitching, as compared to male founders? Because like Ninad, you mentioned that you're meeting a lot of women founders from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Is there some kind of a pattern that you see when women founders are pitching vis-a-vis male, and likewise for you, Divya?
So, I'm supposed to not talk, but let Divya talk, and then I'll give a short 2-line answer.
It's difficult to, I think a proper study on it would really help, but I'll tell you my kind of learnings here. And so one thing that I have noticed is that women founders typically have a lot of ownership, a lot of strong locus of control. It's great because you make your company your baby, and you work very hard towards it. But having this strong ownership creates a lot of, if something goes wrong, they take a lot of personal ownership. I did this, I created some problem. And I think somebody spoke about self-doubts and topics like that. So the self-doubt phenomena in a female founder usually I've found has been quite high. So as compared to male founders, again, this is my personal observation. So a lot of times I have to, tell women founders, hey, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. One mistake won't kill you. It's fine. So I think that's one observation. Self-doubt becomes lack of confidence, and it shows in the pitches. And on the same matter, in general, men would display higher confidence and lower self-doubt. One mistake, women would be, oh my God, what did I do? Men, hota aisa. Maybe we can learn something from men. Maybe high ownership is good in some levels, and we can learn how to modulate it. Sometimes, ho gayi galti, chodo.
Yeah, that's true.
So in one line, since I'm not supposed to talk too much, but we are particularly, as I said earlier, seeing a lot of trend from smaller places, which is a very good trend. What is happening is over many years now, this whole aspect of incubation, entrepreneurship has gone quite deep now. We haven't realized, and we'll start seeing the result of it. there's a far greater desire to succeed. It's in the broad sense and passionate. I am seeing that far greater. And obviously, we don't have any bias, just that we equate that with any other founder. But I generally would say I see that far more. And in that 142 we have funded, some of the successful ones are ones where the women co-founders really showed a lot of passion to succeed. They've come from smaller places and they've really done that. So let me flip to Roshni and ask her, one of the criticisms said, and maybe all of you can add, is that success stories of women are not yet amplified as much. Today, how do you create 1,000 flowers? How do they bloom? Only when one huge thing blooms. Initial days, Flipkart happened. These guys made a success, and because of that, bunch of people started jumping on the e-commerce. Oyo happened, and of course, it went through its ups and downs. 17-year-old raises money, and so these stories have kind of been ingrained. There are so many success stories of women co-founder, and that, is it correct to say, I am not giving any view? Some criticism has happened that amplification is not enough.
Well, amplification probably gets some eyeballs onto it. Now, maybe this gender bias was not even a conscious thing, right? We're not even trying to say that it was conscious or willful that women are underrepresented. So if the whole thing has happened by accident and unconsciousness, then we do need to bring it into consciousness. So I think pushing the conversation, celebrating in a positive way so that there is no finger pointing, we're not speaking from bitterness, and we're actually, using this as role models. I think another sort of example of this could be, in the word of diversity, right? In the US, you'll see if there's an African American success, they make a big deal about it, so that more people get inspired that if they could do it, I can do it. And we all need social proof. Every human being relies on social proof. So I think making the conversation happen and amplifying it is the same thing as using that as social proof. If I succeed and my daughters and their girlfriends, female friends, all see that, and the next generation all see that, oh yeah, I can do that too. A lady went to the moon, I can do that too. And we need more of that to break this in the next 2 generations. Because unknowingly, and I'll sort of almost completely flip the topic, is that this current IB English curriculum is showing how advertisements for even a fruity or a chocolate has women in awkward positions romanticizing the food, and it's so unconscious we don't even flinch when we see it. Or a woman holding a soap, she's standing in a certain way and the man is standing with his clean clothes in a certain way. Visually, we are conditioning everybody to receive this gender bias. It's now in the English curriculum. So I think we all need to do multiple things at once. Is you all have created this environment, you're giving name to these kind of challenges. That's powerful. Children in the English education are being told how language can be discriminatory. And then, yeah, why not amplify it? I would say do more.
So yeah, I think, maybe we should at CII also get more sessions with successful women founders to talk about how they are. So, and incidentally, at the National Startup Committee, there is annually, and not annually, this will be year 2, they have a compendium of 100 successful startups. There is no entry fee, nothing. It's on now. Last year they had put together a compendium, and it was widely circulated, so it's free. I will probably send you a link later. The secretariat will send. So Divya, a question to you is, we have seen VC funds which are only women and investment only into women startups, not just in India, outside India also. Somehow there has been a mixed kind of result. They started, some of them have pivoted to saying, no, okay, we'll take 25% with men only. Then they have rules, no, 51% should be by women. No, 40%. It gets fairly complex. I have seen this. Obviously, you have also seen. We have seen these models. Do you think time has come now that this can happen truly? 100% women, 100% everything. Is there a large enough market, or still it won't work?
Yeah. No, while I would truly want this 100% kind of funds, but I think the impact creation in gender, that thesis has to be mixed with finance return thesis. Without financial returns, a fund cannot operate. Personally, I feel uh, it has to be staged. Ekdam se if you start putting very strong guardrails right now, you will probably not have enough pipeline. You won't be able to deploy. You have to keep in mind your financial outcomes also. Maybe start with maybe 30% women co-founders, 40% women co-founders, board representation, one member out of so many board members. Maybe I think it's time to start putting smaller levers of incremental participation of women, which we can slowly in stages increase it, and at some point in time have 100% women focused fund if we are ready for it. But at this point in time, I think it's too early. In fact, those who are not aware, there's something called 2x challenge. You can check it out at 2xchallenge.org, where a lot of LPs, global top LPs, have come together and they said, hey, listen, by the way, if you are a GP or a fund like Avishkar, and you qualify one or two of these 5-6 criteria, and these criteria are as follows: one co-founder, woman co-founder, company serving women, company having more than so and so percentage of women employees. So they have opened up 4-5 criteria and made it very level one, stage one of let's start getting more women in the workforce. And many GPs have signed up. In fact, we as Avishkar have signed up for this. So we have promised our LPs that, hey, we'll follow that criteria that you have set out for us. So I think it's time to start in a more staged manner while keeping in mind all the angles and topics that as investors we need to take care of. It's like you go in with something and then you change later on. That's no fun.
I think Tanuja wants to ask something. You're looking as if you're eager. No.
I wanted to say something.
Okay, Ravi.
We did something very interesting. The OTT platform, which I had, AHA, and for those of you who don't know, it's based in Hyderabad. So we actually created a show called Nenu Superwoman, which literally translates to I'm a Superwoman. And this was in collaboration with the Telangana government. And in fact, about a year back, well before I joined, I think their question was, how can AHA co-create and do something for startups with us, for entrepreneurs and especially women. And they have something called the T Hub, which is a startup incubator, and they also have something called V Hub, which is focuses on women entrepreneurs. So we actually collaborated with them, and they shortlisted some 500-600 women entrepreneurs. Finally, we selected about 40 with their help, as well as an independent audit firm. And we had a reality show where there were entrepreneurs. So it's like a Shark Tank, if you will, except that they're not sharks, they're angels. So which means everybody wins. And for those women, this was only for women entrepreneurs. And for those who didn't get any funding because the angels didn't want to invest, there was a corpus that the Telangana government gave us and said, on a discretionary basis, this can be given to the startup. And that show did very well. We concluded it about 2.5-3 months back. And these people would come, they would get about 5-7 minutes to pitch. And, these angels who were all entrepreneurs, Dodla Dairy and so on and so forth, Abhiba's founder. So these guys sort of decided whether they want to invest or not. But suddenly we gave a platform to these 40 entrepreneurs shortlisted out of several hundred to get funding and pursue their dreams and scale up.
Great. You guys do a great job in media. Keep going. Aha, that's a great idea. So let me flip to Niranjana. What more can be done at the college level for girls? because that's the time things start getting into the minds of girls and, of course, boys, whether you want to pursue entrepreneurship, take a job, take this. And I'll give some, again, anecdotal, with CII, whenever I travel to smaller places, I have and had talks in colleges and asked how many of you want to, let's say, Kolhapur event or some other place, just to give some perspective. It's not out of Bombay. How many of you want to become entrepreneurs? If 10 years back it was just 30%, now I see not less than 80% raising their hands. And the balance 20%, then I say, okay, well, what are you planning to do? They say, no, I want to work for 2 years and then join a startup. Now, if 100% of people are somehow interested in joining startups, which may not be a good idea, but anyway, that's aspiration. What can be done to help girls, particularly at that level? Because that's the place where you have to seed these ideas and nurture them. What more can be done?
I think it's a lot about spreading that awareness. As I think at the last panel we had Anita talk about it. So I come from Kerala. I'm an electronics engineer myself, and I'll go back 20 years in terms of how I was when I was in grad school. I think it's all about, the main thing is to have role models. At that stage when I was there were very, very few role models I could look up to, right? So it looked like an impossible task. It was almost that, I was academically very, very good. So I was considered, like very different from the rest of the group, because I was a girl. I was very ambitious. I spoke well. I was outspoken, as it was considered. But I personally, within me, I just didn't know, okay, all of this, so now what? Right. And I think at that particular level, what you can do the most is to have role models, showcase them, and have more people go out there, speak to them. I think that is what creates the impact. And I think the only thing it takes for somebody who's inherently capable and confident and all of that is just that belief that I can do it because someone else has done it. And like Roshni said, somebody went to there's this first lady who went to the moon. There is this first lady who did this. So I can also do it, because there's nothing else stopping me. It's just the larger ecosystem which kind of kills my confidence or doesn't give me the confidence. And it's not even a conscious thing, right? It's not that people are doing it consciously. It's just unconsciously, or even as a child growing up, when I look back 20 years, it was just that maybe nobody told me, but it was all in my own head because I never saw people. So I think the main thing is to create awareness, showcase role models at that particular level, because I think that will make the difference. And sir, as you were rightly mentioning, there is a lot of awareness about startups. There's a lot of awareness now about entrepreneurship. 20 years back, it was considered, it was extremely risky, and not even a lot of men also did not venture into that space. Forget women, right? So today we're in a space where there is a lot of talk about entrepreneurship. It is accepted. I think the first thing we need to do is to create role models there. And even as incubation centers and so on, as at the college level, have formalized systems where girls can, you can handhold girls, at least the ones who are interested, who are capable, handhold them. I think that will make a huge difference, because inherently when you have the drive, you will do what it takes to succeed. I think that is, once that is the core of everything, right? But you just need that little bit of a hand holding, little bit of a support to tell you that, you're not alone, there's somebody else. You have a support system you can lean into. I think those are small things that make a huge difference.
Well, your brilliance continues. You are academically brilliant, and now in work as well. I'm sure you are. So don't say I was. I still continue.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Divya, there's a question by our audience, and I think you're the right person to probably answer that. How do you see the landscape evolving for women founders in terms of access to VC funding? It's very broad, but what do you see the landscape evolving?
I think it's go only up and up from here. I think our previous generations of entrepreneurs have fought and broke a lot of ceilings. And at this point in time, there's a lot of strong tailwinds coming towards improving participation of women-led startups. And as I said, LPs are pushing for it. There is conscious choice coming from investors right now at this point in time to have more and more women. There are studies that have come out that say how women-led companies, in fact, there are studies which say women-led companies can perform slightly better than otherwise. There is recognition and awareness of what women leadership means. You know, couple of years back, leadership qualities were predominantly male qualities, and women did not fit well in that paradigm. But now that has been dismantled, disrupted, and there's new leadership quality emerging, which is high empathy, high understanding, so on and so forth. I mean, women are great at that. So a lot of issues, a lot of past baggage at this juncture has been addressed. Lots to do, but I think it's going to be only good from now on for women founders.
Only going to be good. So I'm going to push that forward with Roshni, and let's do some crystal ball gazing. You know, we are, let's say, in November 2028, 5 years from now. Ravi will be on the screen, Tanuja will be on the screen, but I won't be, because the job of a moderator will be taken over by ChatGPT. ChatGPT will ask you questions. I am not required. So I have an expiry date in all this process. Ravi and Tanuja are still going to play a critical role. But on a more serious note, 2028, let's say 5 years from now, where do you see the whole thing going? You know, she's saying up and up, but let's say you think a significant minority would be women co-founders, or would it be touching halfway mark? Give your best shot.
Sure. So I think in the very beginning, you had shared a very interesting statistic where in your own firm, you said about 30% were female founders that you had backed. And the US numbers for that were 1.9%. So that's showing me that India is about 15 times ahead of the US right now, today, based on that.
Correct.
I hope that 5 years from now, we increase that, where India grows, and this is our decade. Whether we say it's going to happen in 2030, you asked me 2028, you know, the round figure that people use is 2030, but sure.
2030,
I think, yeah, exactly. You know, the next decade, we are going to see exactly up and up. And let's ensure that not just your firm, but maybe all the firms are talking about 30%, 40%, 50%. Maybe it doesn't need to be 50%, but it is increasing. And what we should probably be insisting on, because it's almost like, you know, insisting on value, that not just insisting on gender, but are we actually measuring also all the right metrics that we need to, which is, are all of these women founders, we need to do our own, you know, analysis. Is when we grew like crazy, did we add a bunch of, just for optics, we added a bunch of, you know, founders who maybe were not up to the mark. So we do, if you're going to build something scientifically logical, you need to do your own analysis. So a lot of hubris will happen, but hopefully we also put in better checks and places for accountability. You know, and we've seen this happen, right? Where some irresponsible investing has also happened, where we sort of twisted the really priorities. So hopefully now with this new tagline of increasing women representation, 28, more responsible investing, and insisting on value-based outcomes. Maybe we have a better way of defining that also, not just looking at how many, I'm saying I'm a woman, but not just saying women-based founders, but outcome-driven.
Great. Sounds great. So Ravi and Tanuja already have a plan. Next year, they're going to say, Ninad, you come only for 50 minutes. 10 minutes will be ChatGPT, and every year they'll keep increasing that by 10 minutes so that I'm no longer required in a couple of years' time. I can see the plan working. But again, let me ask the last question and then wind it down. I think we are at 4:52 probably. So I'll wind down by 4:55 and leave 5 minutes for closing remarks by Ravi and Tanuja. So let me ask a last question to Niranjana and then have a quick winding up. Assume that you are in a room full of all the male VCs in India, all of them, massive, the biggest. Like you're in Bombay or Geo in Delhi or in one of those places, and you've got a 2-minute pitch. What will you tell them? How to see women co-founders? Because that's the topic. How venture capital sees women co-founders, how we see, but what words would you tell them that how they should see? Only guys, and you're the only woman in the audience.
I would not stress on my gender. And I think I would, when I walk into a room, I walk into a room as an individual with my strengths and my weaknesses. And I will go back to what Roshni also said, that I think as a woman, I would give it my best shot. And after all these years, I am aware of some of the biases that could play against me in a room full of men, right? So I would play that cleverly, but I would not pitch to the VC group or the group as a female founder. I would speak for myself, the person I am, and I would let them, judge me for who I am. But while I am making that pitch, I would do my homework, like I said, with both male mentors and female mentors, and try to understand the perspective.
Sorry to interrupt. My question was slightly different. My question was, what advice would you give them how they should see women co-founders, women founders, not how they should see you when you're evaluating?
Yeah, I would request rather that they look at, evaluate the founder, irrespective of the gender, for the idea, for their capability, and not bring that gender lens into the perspective. I would think that's the fair thing to do, because I think that would be my pitch. I would keep gender by the side and have them pitch, look at the idea independently, look at the person independently, and not really, because I think that is the biggest thing that they can do. If they can remove that gender bias, right, or stop looking at me from a gender perspective, I think half the problem is solved.
Half the problem is solved. I think that's a great line to close. We've had an interesting discussion, but not before grabbing one line from each one of you. Maybe starting with Roshni, one line you would like to tell a young woman graduate, let's say, or they sometimes are still in college, who wants to start a startup. One line of advice.
Yeah, between the fights and the battles and the wars, decide which war you're fighting for, because the fights and battles will keep coming.
Okay, great. Decide which war you want to fight for. And Divya, connected to this topic, which is how venture capital sees women founders. If you're in control of tomorrow morning's headline, what would you like to see in the newspaper?
In connection to this, I would like to see, what we discussed during the discussion. XYZ woman founder created XYZ outcome for the community and the investors. So more headlines on women-centric startups and founders, more coverage, more profiles.
Okay, great. And since you're the last, you'll get two. One line of advice you'll give to successful women founders.
So somebody is already successful?
Correct.
To talk more about themselves, to showcase their story and talk about their struggles, not just the success. The success is for everybody to see. I think people need to be upfront and talk more about the struggles, the difficulties, because I think that's how you pay it forward, right? Because somebody else feels motivated, and somebody else needs to hear that it's not just me, and that there is somebody else who went through this. I think we should talk more about how difficult it's been for us, because the success is there for everybody to see.
And to an unsuccessful women founder,
then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You believe in yourself. You've given it your best fight. You should not lose courage, and there's a whole road ahead. So I think that's important. They shouldn't lose courage and reach out to as many people in terms of how they can pick up from where they are, but absolutely, definitely not to lose courage. I think you've come a long way, and that's you should pat yourself on the back for how far you've come, irrespective of whether you think it's successful or not.
Okay, great.
Ninal, we would like to hear one liner from you also. I have a topic for you. Others can add in. We want to hear from you as well. You've been quite quiet as you started, as you said in the beginning of the session. One line advice for the funds in relation to this topic.
Well, the same thing which I asked this. So I think, see, before that, I'll just give 2-minute background. We never had, I think so, I mean, I may be wrong, we never had a bias on unbiased for women. And I was so shocked to see the statistics today because we have never tracked it, that what's happening over a 5-year period. But so anyway, so that is that. So one line of advice to funds will be, if everything is equal, fund women co-founders first. Your chances of success are far more. And that's anecdotally, we have seen within our fund as well, the passion which they come. The passion is key. So if everything is equal, I mean, there are always, and in making an investment decision, ultimately there are always, kind of, it's not objective decision, as you know. So all things being equal, go for the girl.
That's super encouraging and very well said.
Absolutely.
So I'm done now, but I think we covered a lot of ground. I think I asked a little bit too many tough questions. So please, it was, I was hoping to get good, strong responses, and you did give good responses. This is a topic which, over the 5 years I've been a VC, we have discussed over drinks or, cocktails, but I don't think anytime it's come above ground. But hats off to Tanuja and Ravi for bringing this over. It needs discussion, it needs debate, and more importantly, it needs solutions of doing it, some of which we touched upon. But thank you so much, Roshni, thank you so much, Divya, and thank you so much, Niranjana, for being candid in your responses, for giving this session life in terms of the kind of thought-provoking responses you had. Thank you so much, and over to you. And hopefully the debate will continue. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you, Tanuja and Ravi, for inviting me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ninath, for making time, and awfully grateful to all of you. I'll request Tanuja to wind up.
Lovely. First, thank you, everybody. I think it was an amazing panel discussion. I feel there is so much of strength in every conversation that we've had, and Ninath, due credit goes to you. You truly are able to pick up the right questions, and sometimes controversial and thought-provoking. So this is a second session I've attended where you've been the moderator, and it's brilliant. For all our panelists, truly, I think for all our tribe here, whoever has attended today, there's a lot of optimism. I personally believe that the more messages that go out, the more people talk about it, we are sowing the seeds of that optimism where everybody can look forward. It's not easy, and I'm sure each one who's come here, it's not an easy. We all have had our struggles, but in spite of that, we are ready to take it forward and share these with many, many more in our tribe. And then we have people who are the he for she, people like you guys, who are there to take this forward. So I personally am extremely bullish. I feel this is the right time for women founders. This is the right time for women because the narratives are changing. There are more in our tribe. There are more in a community who are ready to give it forward. So on that note, thank you once again, Ravi. And truly, this is well, curated for all of us and for all those people who have attended. I'm sure we've left a mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you everyone for joining.